Hey everyone, it is Tuesday. I am Carmen Milagro. I'm a confidence strategist, and among other things, I do this show every Tuesday. I really look forward to spending time with you and having you here with us on Confidence Strategies 101. As you know, this is a place where I want to be able to share and showcase positive ideas, resources, stories, and introduce you to some incredible coaches and mentors and business executives, from musicians to designers and other entrepreneurs. That's pretty much the basis for why we get together every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I love it when you comment during the show and when you like our broadcasts and share it with your friends. So don't be shy. Tonight's webisode is also sponsored in part by Music City Hit Factory. We're still under construction. I can't wait to share with you what is coming to this space, but it's everything that I love all rolled into one. It's music education, it's community, it's artists, and all of us will be thriving in this space once it's completed. But I get to do this before we're all done. So I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to broadcast live from Music City Hit Factory. Today, waiting in our virtual green room, I have a very, very special guest. We've known each other for quite a while now, actually. Started out in the social media realm, and now we've become what I consider a dear friend and a colleague and someone that I admire and respect for the work that she does in her community. And there's something about just when you're in alignment with people, you just come back to them and you share resources, and then you say, well, let's do this together. So that's what we're trying to do today. She is a US Navy veteran. Angelica Marie is an intuitive and spiritual life coach. She helps you master and optimize your genius, heighten your confidence, and elevate your presence. She believes that everyone is born with the divine orders, and your job is to carry out that mission no matter what. Welcome to Confidence Strategies 101, Angelica Marie. Angelica, hi, welcome.
Hi, Brad.
I'm so excited you're here with us tonight. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Good, thank you. Why don't you let everyone know where you are joining us from?
So I am actually from originally from Houston, Texas. So I live in a small town outside of that, a small town called Fresno. Actually, where I stay at is my grandfather had bought some property. Oh gosh, back in the early '80s. And so when he passed, he left it to my mom. And then when I came back to Houston for being gone for quite a while.
Right.
Now I'm here raising my two kids. So
Oh.
it's such a beautiful place. I mean, I love it here, to be honest with you. All
Oh,
kinds of
good.
birds and butterflies, and I just love it. It's such a very high spirited place.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's perfect for what you do. And I know you're
Yeah.
9 o'clock or after 9 o'clock at where you are. So thank you for spending your evening with us. We will enjoy our time, but I also am very mindful of your time, because you are taking time away from your family and the things that you need to do to hang out with us. But I'm really excited to have you really share with our viewers. And we have some folks that watch us live, and then we have other folks that share it and they watch the replay and they host watch parties and that sort of thing. So could you tell everyone what what is an intuitive and spiritual life coach in your own words? How do you describe what you do?
Oh my goodness.
It
I
sounds
have
like
to
a
be
tall
honest with
order,
you,
but
Carmen. I know, but you know what, Carmen? So I want to say this. The intuitive part, I have been very resistant on that for a really long time, I have to admit. Um, but I think it was in this last year, and I've been very, very, very blessed to have found a wonderful spiritual teacher who I've been
Ah,
studying with and got into her programs, and then just really understood more about life in general. Period.
ah, uh-huh.
Um, and I think one of the other things that was happening was that I kept seeing my birthday, 9/19, like all the time on clocks, on, just everywhere. It's like even at the grocery store, I would just see my birthday. So one day
Ah,
I decided to kind of take a look at that. And the message was to really start looking within yourself. Because what
uh-huh.
was happening for me, I was kind of going through a period of time where I kept looking outside. Like I would never really listen to what was going on, to my own intuition, right?
Right.
So when I started really paying attention, I kind of decided to like do like an information cleanse period. And I really started listening inside of me. And I think that's what kind of led me to really start living more intuitively and start
Right.
really listening to that, because I think for so many years I just stopped trusting myself. I
Sure.
mean, I think we all go through that. At one point or another, we kind of all go through that. So
Right.
for me, that's kind of what it is. It's like so how I define intuitive just really means that you just start listening to the thoughts that are in your head that are going to actually move you forward, not move you back. Because we have all kinds of thoughts, right?
Sure.
But it's the ones that move you forward. And sometimes as scary as they may be, those are the ones that's your intuition. And that's the ones that we need to start listening to. So I started listening to that. It's that feeling place also, I will start paying attention to more of my feelings.
Right.
The spiritual part comes in where, so how I kind of define spirituality, it just really, again, the relationship you have with yourself, with your own spirit. That's how I define it.
Sure.
I know they have a wide audience of people who have different beliefs. So I really try to keep it neutral. But in a way that, when I talk about God, talk about universe, kind of one and the same for me. And that's love. That's just unconditional love that's always there. But it's that spirit that's inside of you that I don't know. Like it's so hard to explain. You just feel it. You just feel it inside. That's all it is. It's just a feeling that you just have, and
Mm.
you just know that that part of you is love. It's just pure love. And so that's something I've had to I guess come into that place. And it took me a while, I have to admit, to come into that
Sure.
place. But that's why I teach what I teach, because I know what it sounds like when you're not in it. I know
Right.
that pain when you're not in your what I call your power center, or where you when you own your worth, understand your value, and you're not following your intuition,
Right.
because it'll take you on a whole different path
You're right.
that a lot of times, you come up with a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle, a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of
Sure.
craziness, I call it.
Yeah. Well, and in a recent, uh, we were actually a part of a recent live that we did over the weekend, and one of the things that really stuck with me, what you said in your presentation, you said you have to have faith and belief in the unexpected, and it seems to me that it all ties into what you were just saying. But can you sort of expound on that a little bit? Like what did you mean specifically with that? When you were talking about you have to have faith and belief in the unexpected, does it also tie into having faith and belief, like what you said, in yourself?
Yes. Oh my goodness, that's a really big topic. I think all by itself. But I want to try to like keep it as simple as I can. Um, faith and belief in the unexpected. Oh, how do I want to start that? It really. So I want to share a quick story.
Okay.
Back in 2016, you may have seen this post. I'm not really sure, but this was back in 2016. It happened on September 1st, where I had received some unexpected money. And how that kind of came about, that I even found out about that money, was because I was receiving these emails from USAA, which is my insurance company. It was prior to that. I kept receiving these emails that would say incoming payment pending. And because I hadn't been with them for over a year,
Hmm.
always been a member since I got out of the Navy, but just hadn't been active with them for over a year. I had went to the from you know how you kind of investigate to see if it's really coming from the company or if it came from
Oh,
someone else. So
of
I
course.
did that
Absolutely.
first. So I did that, and then I saw it was said USAA at Rutgers.edu. So I would just delete these emails all the time, and I would get them on a daily basis.
Wow.
One day I had went to the library while my kids were in school, and I was getting ready to sit down in front of the computer. One had came in through my notifications, and I said, you know what, I need to go check my account because something could be wrong. These are college students, hackers, whatever that may be. So I went to go look. When I opened up my account, I saw there was like a negative. I can't remember how much it was. It was almost close to 2,000, to be honest with you, like a whatever that was. And so it was like negative, say $2,000, and then above that it said a check was issued. And I panicked and I was like, oh my gosh, I said, I called them and said, listen, this is going on. I've been getting these emails. I
Mhm.
know they're just hackers. I can't pay this money back. Please fix this. So the guy, puts me on hold. He does his investigation. Meanwhile, I'm kind of walking outside. And when he gets back on the phone with me, I think I was on hold for maybe 10 minutes or so.
Mhm.
He says, Miss Gonzalez, he goes, actually, that money is yours. We did send you a check, but we see the check was never cashed. And I was like, what? I said, how can that be? But here's the thing about that story. The thing is that the email that I was receiving, those fraudulent emails, it was to my old leec.biz, right? That email account was never tied to my USA account. When we were doing the transaction and the updating, it had an old email. It had an old Yahoo account that was
Right.
registered. So that was the first time where I knew that there was something outside of me that was working with me, if that
Sure.
makes sense. So that's kind
Sure.
of where I began to have the awareness that
Hmm.
unexpected things can really happen. So that was back in
Right.
2016, right? So you kind of go through your journey. I had ups and downs, mountains and valleys. You know how that goes.
Like everyone else,
It's like
right?
everyone else. But you know what? Throughout that period of time, Carmen, I would just notice life, period, and how in my hardest, darkest times was
Mhm.
when the universe would just come in, and at the right moment, it would just work
Gift you.
for me. Give.
Yeah.
That's all it would
Yeah.
do. It would just
Yeah.
literally give. There was one year I was really without a salary, like nothing, no income, no nothing. It was probably the hardest year.
Right.
But in hindsight, when I look back, I just realized how the universe was still supporting me. In the meantime, when I was trying to heal, trying to, do
Right.
whatever I had to do for myself, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the
Right.
unexpected can happen. It can happen. Now, here's the thing that I kind of learned. So a lot of times when I'm coaching, at least previously, I would coach a lot on how to break through fear, right?
Hmm.
The thing is about fear, something that I kind of realized is that even in fear, that's infused with faith, right? Because you
Right.
believe in the possibility when all of a sudden um our ego mind is has our five senses. Okay, so it has these what I call limiting possibilities because it will only show you what it can see, hear, feel, taste, whatever, touch, whatever they may be, right? And your ego is going to probably give you scenarios that are probably going to scare you. They're probably going to actually limit you. And so,
Right.
if you believe in that fear of the worst possibility, and you kind of like you believe it, you see, you visualize it, that's because, like, if you really think deep into it, that really is infused with some kind of faith because you believe in that. You believe in that possibility. So, my
Right.
thing is now is that why not shift into having faith and belief in the unexpected, in the unseen, because I've had those experiences. I know that that unseen possibilities happen. They happen
Right.
all the time to all people. You just have to believe in that.
Right. And perhaps and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing you say to me right now, and this is what popped into my head, is if you are capable of believing something negative, why not switch it and be capable of believing something positive?
Exactly, exactly,
Right?
exactly. That's exactly it. Exactly it. And I think a lot of people,
That makes perfect sense. There's always the other side of the
yeah,
coin. So
always.
why not, we it's a choice. We make a choice to believe in the unexpected, to believe and have faith in something positive. I love that. um
Yeah,
I I'm not always successful at it, but I do try to do that, to live that way. One of the things that I really loved about when I was reading your bio and reading about some of the more current work that you've been doing is the idea that you talk about heightening someone's self confidence. And of course, this is a big topic for me. The whole show is based on confidence strategy. So I was wondering if you could share with us from your personal, chest of drawers, what have been, or have you had some obstacles that relate to self-confidence, but then also the triumph? So maybe one of each, the obstacle or the challenge in your self-confidence development, and then a triumph, the other side of that coin. I like doing this, both sides of the coin.
yeah. So, oh my goodness. So I would tell you that I think one reason why a lot of people haven't seen me on social media for so long
Uh-huh.
is because I had to kind of step away from it because this may be a kind of a big way of saying it, but I felt in so many ways it was toxic for me, but not because of what anyone else did. It
Uh-huh.
was because of what I would say to myself after the fact, after I made a post, after I did a Facebook Live, after I would criticize myself all the time. So I think that that's where I would start losing my self-confidence and almost like kind of like comparing myself a lot of times. I wasn't further along that I think that I should have been, and I would just beat myself up over and over and over again.
Mhm.
So I had to literally just kind of step away and decide that I was going to somehow figure this out because
Sure.
I didn't want to show up inauthentic, I guess. And I know it sounds like one of those cliche words, but I really wanted to be real with people. I really, and I wanted to feel real. I didn't want that when I said something, even though that whatever I wrote, most times it just really literally came like as a download and I would just write it. But then
Mhm.
afterwards, it was what I would do to myself. I would just like criticize and just second guess and I didn't want to do that anymore. So for me, kind of like as I was sharing with you, this past year, it was really learning to to trust myself and to be okay with where I was at
Right.
and stop criticizing. Stop like my spiritual teacher, Carol Durage always talks about, like, you don't want to abuse that inner part of you. And that's a lot of times what we do. We just like inner child abuse.
Right.
So that's basically what I was doing, and I think now the reason it's kind of funny because I think that when I decided, okay, yes, I'm ready to come back, all of a sudden when I said yes, like I was getting all these invitations,
Right.
like back to back to back. I was like, oh my goodness. But it's different now. It
Right.
is. Now I do because you do realize that that intuitive nature that you have, sometimes it comes from something bigger. That's how I see it. It does come from something bigger.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, sometimes we just have to get out of our own way, right?
yeah, yeah, a lot of people say that. I, you know, I, I agree. I kind of will say it differently.
Sure.
I would just say that you have to just love every part of yourself, no matter what. Period. Like, period. Just really accept and love yourself, and it is radical, radical, radical self acceptance,
Mhm.
and knowing that. I think part of confidence is really valuing the self worth. I will always come back to really owning your self worth, and I think that's what was going on with me, is that I really wasn't owning that. I just
Right.
wasn't owning it, because when you love someone, you're not gonna go criticize them, and so why would you do that to yourself?
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
really, why would you do that? So that's kind of where the other side of the coin has been. Right now, I'm looking at 919. That's my birthday.
Uh-huh.
So it's the intuitive side.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's about really coming back and just trusting that part of you, that everything that you do is okay.
Right.
It's fine. It's great. It really is great.
Right. I mean, and as a coach, you're working with a spiritual guide as well, which I think is really important to highlight, that people sometimes, I think, get a sort of a misconception of what a life coach or a spiritual coach or any type of coach, does. And I think they forget that we also work with mentors and coaches because we're constantly learning or redefining, or relearning things that maybe we kind of lost track of for ourselves. What would you say was the defining moment when you said enough is enough? I am good enough. I'm not going to criticize myself anymore. Was it on your own, or was it through that process of, like you said, you're working with your spiritual guidance?
I think it was both. I'm gonna be honest. It was both. I mean, my teacher, I love her so much. She has just taught. Put it this way: what she did for me
Hmm.
was tell me was to help me let go of the judgment of my past. Put it that way, because I think
Right.
I held on to that because I had a very wild life. That I think that for the most part, I probably judged myself a little too harshly. So the greatest gift that she gave me was to help me kind of release that part.
Right.
And so in doing so, then in releasing that judgment helped me to like open up even more doors to my heart and to my own mind, that I was like, you know what? I am doing great. So that I would start being more proud of what I was doing. Being a single mom, it's not the easiest job in the world. And there were times that I would tell you I would just beat up on myself for not being a good enough mother. And I think that's probably been a really big one for me. I have to say that I've had to like really at the end of every night just even as the one thing to say what I'm proud of myself for. So yeah,
Right.
so it was both. It was really her guidance and her teachings, and then also me. My that part of you that says, "Hey, you're doing great."
Right. Right. I think it's a very common topic. I think women, for the most part, there's so many women that do this, no matter how successful, no matter whatever success means to them. But I think that self-criticism is such a barrier sometimes to having a really good sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. Um, what when you're working with someone, what would you say that is your greatest capability? Like, why, how are you able to help someone else? Is it because your compassion and your empathy for the person that you're working with comes from all that self-awareness? Like, what's the greatest thing that you offer as a coach to someone that you're working with?
Oh, you know what? I want to say maybe at least maybe two things. I think number
Great.
one, what you just mentioned is that having that awareness, like I know what it looks like, I know what it feels like, I know what they're thinking, I can identify it just like that.
Yeah.
I know most likely
You
what's
can relate.
blocking them, you
You
know.
can relate.
Yeah, very much so. So it's easy because a lot of times you know it's I mean it's like that saying goes, a doctor cannot diagnose himself. He has to go to another doctor. So it's the same thing is, you know. Um the other thing too is that well maybe it's three things. The second part is I have a very my intuition is just right on.
Right.
It's when I'm in my coaching because I love it so much, it'll just come through, and it just comes through in so clearly. Um, I've seen some of the comments also.
Right. Right.
um, and I think the third thing as a coach
Hmm.
is how them take action. Like I can recognize that fear, and it's about taking action. Taking action. It's like I don't know how to explain this, Karen, but
Right.
I am such a huge like believer, and you gotta take action.
Right.
You know, yes, sometimes there are moments because I have to admit I did pull away, but in the pulling away, it wasn't that I have been doing my inner work. I have been really working hard on healing whatever was needed to be healed so that I could keep moving forward, right?
Right. Right.
And I did that. But one of the things that I just noticed a lot with a lot of people is that they don't take action fast enough.
Right. Well, and the fact that you pulled away as you described it, that is an action. So it doesn't, I think sometimes people get a little bit confused in that they think that an action is something that is, like you go do it now, you have to go forward. But sometimes the correct action, it just depends. It depends on the person, it depends on the situation, but it is an action versus just not doing anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. There is all kinds of actions I have to say, and I would tell you that I'm still working on it probably there, but I know and like in my family, and I think with especially with, like I'm Latina, so in our culture, a lot of times we have to always be moving all the time, and that was kind of me all the time. So this whole thing about being still, it
Mhm.
it does get a little hard, but I will tell you at the same time that there are actions that you talk about, like so let me share one with you. So we were talk about the unexpected, having faith and belief in the unexpected. A couple of years before I got together with my spiritual teacher, and she reminded me recently about Neville Goddard. Do you know Neville Goddard?
I know the name.
Okay, so Neville Goddard is very famous.
Uh-huh.
He was, I think a lot of people call him a spiritual philosopher, but
Okay.
he taught people how to visualize and be in the end. Like visualize. I think he's probably one of the few people who really taught people how to visualize correctly. Put it that way. And so and recently she reminded me of him, so I kind of started going back and started listening to some of his, because a lot of people love him and he's on YouTube. You can actually hear he's passed, but you can hear him speaking his lectures that he gave away for free.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the action when he says time at now
Mm-hmm.
means literally visualize what it is that you want. So action can take all kinds of different forms. And sometimes it's in the visualization, in the
Uh-huh.
being still and visualizing what it is that you want, that's an action that you can take.
Right.
So yes,
Uh-huh.
so true that people, as a coach, what I would say this, as a coach, so I've had to tell some of my clients, okay, let's pull away from this, pull away from that, and let's do something different.
Right. Right. So you kind of help them move away from the comfort zone into
Yes.
something that's more unknown, and
Yes.
that action is going to create a reaction. I mean, I
Yes.
know that I'm oversimplifying, but that is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm
But it's
trying to like
true.
oversimplify, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes, you know what it is? I think that, so, here's my thing. I think that sometimes when people are taking their action in some direction, right? Let's just talk about something simple, making phone calls. Sometimes their expectation maybe a little so what they're expecting is that they're going to get a client from making those phone calls, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes what could happen could be something that you may need, like say for instance you may need like I don't know, say a strategic partner can come out of that. Does that
Right.
make sense? Or
Yeah.
maybe money can come from making those phone calls.
Right.
That step will take you to another step that will lead you to the other step where get you the money. But you
Right.
have to take that first step, those first action steps,
Right.
right? So
Yes.
I think that if people let go of the expectation and
Uh-huh.
just kind of follow through on that action, then allow the universe to kind of surprise you.
Right.
I think that's where I kind of, I've seen it. I
Right.
know it works.
So the outcome is not always what we have crafted in our minds. The outcome is what it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And again, I'm just trying to like drill down. I know that there's a whole litany of steps and all of that that comes in between that. But I think for everyone watching and listening, just to sort of start planting those seeds of what coaching can do for you, like working with you, for example, and just to kind of give people some anchor points to hold on to
Mhm.
so that hopefully it opens up their minds, right? I mean, one of the things that I try to do here on the show is to talk with and to get to know our coaches as people, not just processes, but as the people behind the coaching and the steps that they're teaching and how they're working with people. I want everyone to be able to just refer back to this and go, she had that guest and she sent something and it resonated, and maybe it's not right now. Maybe the action step isn't to take it right now, but it might be in the future. And then these lives live in on the internet, on YouTube, and they're there. So as
Yeah.
resources, this is what I love. I love having these conversations, and I'm so happy that you were able to join me tonight, because I don't even remember, Angelica, I don't remember how long now that we've known each other, on social media and virtually. But it feels like I've known you for a long time. But the one thing that I always come back to, and every time that I talk to you, it's just your sense of, you are so kind and you're so humble and you're so giving in what you do, that, you know, different people require different styles of coaching.
Mhm.
And I seem to really relate to your style of coaching. I would thrive in that kind of environment, whereas someone else's style, I probably wouldn't thrive.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? I mean, you're so real and you're so authentic. And that's why I said earlier, I think that when you are able to work with someone, you offer this empathy and compassion like very few people that I've ever encountered. And I just wanted you to know that.
Oh, thank you. I had to say, compassion is one of my keys. I do believe it is a key skill, and I have talked with many, many, many people for a long time. If they were to hear this live, they would know, they would agree, because I know people would kind of ask me questions, and I would always say you have to be compassionate, and I don't mean it's to say that you have to be. It's just that try to be compassionate, because the thing about compassion, and this is for me, compassion is one of those skills where actually you have a lot of boundaries also.
Sure.
When we talk about energy, what I call your energetic space, right? You
Hmm.
can have compassion for someone, and that compassion can still be at a distance where it doesn't come into your energetic space.
Right.
Whereas whereas my understanding of empathy and how I kind of see it is that when you're in empathy now that's kind of coming into your own energy, right? So I think there's kind of a huge difference on that, because what you're doing is with empathy, you're holding the space for your client, right?
Right.
You're holding that space, and like for me, it's like I will always see the person at their highest, no matter how they feel about themselves or what's going on in their lives. I will always hold them to their highest, because because honestly, I know how this works. I know how the universe works. I know how the spirit inside of them works. All we have to do is get that ego to catch up. That's all it is in reality. But compassion, there is a very strong boundary there, is how I see it. So I think that sometimes people kind of resist it, is how I feel sometimes, that people do resist being compassionate towards other human beings, when in reality that is the most important key thing that we need to do, especially during these times that we're living in, because, well, we got to keep moving forward. That's how I'm going to say it.
Right. Right. No, sometimes it is that simple. You're right.
Hmm.
When people are trying to reach out to you and they're looking for someone like yourself, they think that they know what you do and they've watched you on other presentations, et cetera, et cetera. But what is the defining factors that you look for in like you said, there's boundaries. You have compassion, you have empathy, but there's boundaries, and sometimes those boundaries allow you to say, that's not a right client, or that's not a right situation for me. Like, what is the criteria that you're looking for in the clients that you are able to help?
Number one, that they take responsibility for their own energy. That's like number one. They um they have to at least be willing to take responsibility. I'll say it even that way. They have to be willing to take responsibility. That in other words, they cannot have that victim mindset. And
Right.
I can recognize that hugely. That's something I can recognize. And I have to be honest, I know that I'm kind of evolving in my own coaching and kind of redefining it. So I do have I personally have an application that I'm changing up, but that one of the things that I kind of ask is, how have you overcome an obstacle? I want to see that in them. I really do want to see that. And it's
Mm.
not um the end all be all, like, but I think there's something to be said that they have to be willing to take responsibility. because if
Sure.
someone's too much in their victim mindset and they want to hold on to that, nothing I say or do is really going to help them at that moment. They're just not there yet.
Right. Right.
And they have to
Um,
be okay with that. It's not a criticism. It's okay.
right. It's just not going to work. The work that
Hmm.
you would be doing with them, it wouldn't work if they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who is looking for the type of coach that the coaching that you do needs to understand that. And that's one of the reasons why I asked this question, because sometimes people think they know what they want, but are they willing to do what they need?
Yeah, yeah, because you know what, Carmen, because one of the things that I'm doing now is that I'm actually teaching the women to get in touch with their own intuition. So in order for to do that is that they just have to be in a certain mindset so they can tap into that. Because yeah, they it's I heard this coach say it one time. I didn't understand it, and now I understand it. Is
Uh-huh.
that sometimes you're just not available for that high level intuition. I'll say it that way. The high
Right.
level intuition. They can get you at they can take you to the next step instantly. They can solve your problems just like this. Right?
Hmm.
Because you're just not available for it because there's so much clog,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's what it is. And I want to move fast. I want to move fast with people.
Sure, sure. Where do I know that, again, I want to be mindful and respectful of your time. We usually allot for like 45 minutes. So, in two things, can you, besides what we've already talked about, can you leave like one or two tips for our viewers on how can they tap into their intuition, or prep themselves before going to work with you? Like, what would you recommend that people do, just in general?
You know, actually, the first thing they can do is become self aware of what they're thinking. Number one, like really take one day and just with a notebook and just write down what their thoughts are. What was that like for them?
Uh-huh.
And I just want them to kind of take inventory. That's like number one because it's going to really tell you how can I explain? It's going to really tell you where you're going, whether you're moving forward, whether you're being stuck, or whether you're actually going in reverse. Because
Right.
sometimes it happens. Sometimes a circumstance may show up in their lives, and all of a sudden they're doing all this kind of things that I felt that I was doing, and instead of moving forward, I felt like I was kind of going backwards.
Right.
Um, so I think that that's number one is that to prep up, just take a notebook, take a little diary, whatever it may be, nothing too formal, but just take down those thoughts.
Mhm.
And then once they have that awareness, then they can start making a decision. Am I willing to take responsibility and will I do whatever it takes to get me to that next step?
Great. I love it. Those are simple, concise. Anyone can do them if they're ready to do them.
Mhm.
Where, before we let you go, and so you can get back to your family and the rest of your evening, where can people connect with you?
The best place to connect with me is through Facebook. Um, right now through Facebook, to be honest with you. Like I said, LinkedIn, you can actually find me on LinkedIn too. I get a lot of messages on there, but yeah, Facebook and LinkedIn are the best places at this moment.
Okay. Do you have some special groups that people can join,
you
or just
know, yeah. So it's I do have a Facebook group, Latina Entrepreneurs Empowerment Circle. That is a it's almost like a separate type of program that I'm doing. Although a lot of things that I do in my private coaching, I do infuse it in there. But I
okay?
will say that that's probably more of a special niche
Okay.
for Latina entrepreneurs. One of the things that I want to do is really bring, like, first of all, equip and educate and empower Latina entrepreneurs to elevate their own business.
Sure.
Because what I would like to see is that to have more millionaire revenue earners,
Right.
right? We're just, there's like a huge gap, and we're less than 1%. And
Right.
so that's a whole project all in itself. But I do invite people who are interested, or Latina entrepreneurs, and it's open to
Right.
all women right now.
That's great. That's great. So, and please, in our group, the Confidence Strategies group page, um, feel free to let everyone know what your Facebook page is and all of that, and connect with people. That's what this show is all about, is building the pipeline so that people know, who you are and what you're doing. And before I forget, again, I know that, you spent time in the US Navy, and thank you for everything that you've done for our country. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I'm really thrilled that you were able to spend this time with us this evening. And if you have any parting last words for everyone, before you go, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Carmen. I just love and adore you. You know that. I really do want to thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I mean, honestly, here's what I want to tell people: just really believe in yourself and believe in the unexpected, because miracles, I promise you, do happen. They happen all the time.
I
You gotta
agree.
be
I
open to it.
agree. Thank you, Angelica. Thank you for spending your time with us. And it was really great to see you. So,
Yes, it's great to see you.
yes, thank you. And for everyone else, thank you all. Thank you for spending your Tuesday night with us here at Confidence Strategies 101. I also wanted to mention that, I'm currently working with someone else side by side with another amazing colleague and a friend. She and I are bringing you on an online coaching program. It's designed for startup entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, first time mompreneurs, and entrepreneurs. We're fine tuning everything. We're building the curriculums. We're putting together the infrastructure. And we'll let you know when we start accepting applications for 2021. Next week, we've got Trish Flanagan from Arkansas's Future School. She's going to join us. We're going to talk about her revolutionary approach to school, a school program that she helped to build from the ground up, and how she's been able to secure a $1.2 million grant to continue her vision to grow. Again, thank you to our sponsor, Music City Hit Factory, a nonprofit online community, an educational music program we're launching soon here in San Francisco. I'm going to keep you posted about that as well. Thank you all for, just coming back, for joining me on Tuesdays at 7. Stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you next week as we continue to evolve, explore, and thrive together. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye bye.